faculty for tonight. And lastly, this session, I want to bring it all to your attention, will be recorded tonight and it will be shared to the wider Spur Africa community later post this event. So now moving to our wonderful panel, I'm going to ask each of the panelists if they'd like to tell us a little bit about themselves, and I'm going to throw directly, Patoh, to you first up.
Thank you very much, Ian. My name is Patrick Achola. They just call me Patoh here in Kibera, and I actually lead the team here, making sure that all the children are going to school, making sure that all the staff have all the necessary skills and tools to do their work. And I'm happy to actually be able to meet all of you today.
Excellent. And Rosalie.
Hi, my name's Rosalie. I'm the Managing Director of the Australian side of Spur Africa. It's great to see you all today, even though we're all at our homes. It's actually a really unique way that we can all gather together, even though we're really far apart, and to really think about the Kenyan team and all the children and families and people who we support in Kenya in Kibera slums. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rosalie. And to Alex.
Hi, thanks Ian. My name's Alex Box. I worked as a primary educator for almost 10 years before moving into the research and development space. My connection with Spur Africa began when I met Rosalie through you, Ian, as you and I worked together back in the day. You were an assistant principal in the school where I was a classroom teacher. And doing a trip like the Spur trip is something I've wanted to do since around probably age 16 or 17 when I was getting into the World Vision 40-hour famine sort of stuff. So it's really wonderful to be friends with the Spur Africa founders and to be involved in the work that they do. And I'm really happy to be here tonight.
Great, lovely to have you. And finally, David.
Hey, hi, I'm David. I'm a GP in Melbourne, Victoria, and I was fortunate enough to be with on the Spur on the trips from Melbourne, Australia to Kenya this year for a few weeks, and also in 2016. And I'm very much enjoy doing working with overseas workers, and particularly and other than the medical work, I like seeing the child development work as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you, David. What a great panel we have got for this evening to give us the latest of the developments and what has been happening with Spur Africa. And a special welcome there to Sue, who's also zoomed in from Kibera. I can see you there, Sue, so special welcome to you. Patoh, I'm going to come back to you now, and we're going to start to just drill down a little bit deeper about some of these developments. But can you tell us about the challenges Spur Africa is currently facing in Kibera due to the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic?
Well, it's very hard for us because first, the very fabric of our culture has been messed up with, which is being very close and be able to touch each other and greet each other, which we cannot do anymore right now. So part of it really is that now we have had to social distance from the children, and that is our main business. We are not able to see them all the time as I would like to see them and monitor them. And we realize that even as a staff team, we are not able to meet all in the same room because the government now has restrictions on how many people can be in a particular room. So we've had to actually talk with each other over internet, even though sometimes we're in the same place, but just in different rooms. Yeah, and now also we cannot have the children at the center. They are used to coming to the center when they're not in school. So we have to actually call each child on phone, and there are 100 children. So we have to make 100 phone calls to follow up on each child, and it takes a long time to actually get through them and to respond to many things that they go through.
That's remarkable in light of the numbers of people that you have in Kibera. That must be a huge challenge for you.
Oh, yes.
Patoh, the Spur Emergency Food Fund. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that's been quite an initiative during these challenging times.
Oh yeah, most of the children that we work with, their parents usually are the low cadre in the working force. So they are the cleaners in people's homes, they are the cooks in schools, and all those jobs have had to stop because all schools have stopped right now. All organizations like churches are not going on. So what it means is that most of our caregivers and the parents, they're not working anymore. So what we realized when we were following up on our kids is that many of them were starting to go without food, and we had to respond very quickly by setting up an emergency food fund or project so that we are able to make sure that they still have something to go on. The danger when they don't have food and other necessities is that then they might get into doing bad things that then they might end up in a lot more trouble. So we decided to actually do this and hoping that we are able to sustain them for some time.
That's a remarkable effort, Patoh, with you and your team. Look, I was just reflecting when we were Skyping together just last week, and you were just relaying how you were sitting down for your meal, and you were finding that even a challenge within your home because you knew outside your door in that very, very close proximity, there were lots of people that just didn't have any food.
Yeah, it becomes very difficult because then I could eat. I still have a job and my job is still paying me, but right outside my door, there are many people. And for me, especially the children that really, they depend on other people to be able to get these meals. So I think I'm also being taught on how to use resources more carefully because right outside my door, there are a family that are not eating. And most of these families, usually, there are 5 children and 2 adults. So just one single meal wasted can actually feed a lot more people.
It's quite remarkable, as we were saying, and I want you to just hold on to some of these thoughts that Patoh was expressing, because there are opportunities within this space for us here in Melbourne to be involved, but we will come back to that. Patoh, I'm just going to throw quickly to Sue, and it's great to have her a part of this session tonight. Sue, I always recall you very much the nuts and bolts person behind the scenes, always, you know, making sure things would happen. How have you been coping, keeping the management of some of these programs and supporting Patoh and the rest of the team going?
Hi everyone. Yeah, thank you Ian for the question. I think it's been a little difficult, just as Patrick mentioned, and because we have had to change the way we operate, and some of it is not necessarily easy. And I think just because we are largely very community oriented, and now all of a sudden we have to keep the distance, and we are responsible and liable for what we do, just being able to change the way we operate and checking in with everyone constantly to ensure that they understand the times has been quite a bit of a challenge, but I'm grateful that the team is flexible, and we have, even the transition to just do the food bank and going to the children's homes has been a little bit easy, though it is also hectic.
Now, I'm not sure of the situation in Canberra, but in Australia at the moment, our children, of course, are being supported with their learning at home. And so is that any of that type of activity going on for you and your daughter?
Yeah, I think at this particular moment, I am calling up all my friends who are teachers and telling them, I'm giving them a high five because they do a great job. I think I have a 6-year-old, and just getting into the space of doing homeschooling is like a very uphill task. And I can imagine even for other parents who have more than one. So I think this is the time also to just sit and reflect and know that actually everyone in the world pulls their load. And at this particular moment, I'm really missing teachers a lot.
So hats off to our teachers and also our parents who are also challenging finding it a challenging situation at home with their children. So thanks for that, Sue, and thank you, Patoh, as well. I'm going to now move to David. David, you're a GP, and you've volunteered your time and energy and skills for these 2 weeks, and I know that this is your second time going to Canberra. Tell us about your time, particularly with the medical work that you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went to Kenya, yes, and this year and in 2016 for medical work. So there's I was there to help with the screening, partly with the help of the sponsored children, but also screening clinics for the local schools in the Kibera area of Nairobi. And we did a lot of screening. There was the other doctor from Australia this year was Grace. She's gone many times, of course. And also we had the local doctors from Nairobi as well. And so this year we saw about 1,000, actually a little bit more than 1,000 children for screening. And that's so we saw entire classes of entire year levels, of schools. So there was a lot of, yes, there's a lot of healthcare. There was a lot of healthcare. And actually compared to, and I think it was a worthwhile sort of thing to do, because really it was actually quite a lot of high prevalence, or a lot of children with some health problems or health conditions. Because I think probably because of some environmental issues. I think there's another environmental, it's very crowded. It's a very crowded place. It's quite a lot of airborne pollution. And also, one thing when I went I've been to Bangladesh before. There's no shortage of, I complained about the lack of warm showers in Bangladesh, but it's absolutely no shortage of water in Bangladesh. It's just coming out of the ground. But in Nairobi, it's just a little bit undersupplied, or especially the Kibera in particular is undersupplied with water.
Now, I'm very aware that the days that you put in the medical clinic situation, they're long and they're arduous, and it's pretty challenging with the conditions. Tell us a little bit about that, how you felt.
It certainly was quite, actually it was more confronting 4 years ago, actually, because there was often long queues because there's whole classes, whole year levels, so it's long. A lot of children were waiting, but I think over the years it's become a little bit more, quite well organized, actually, and also because we have a lot of help from the local doctors who are, of course, they speak local languages as well, like Swahili, so that makes it faster for them. So I guess it's just it's quite fun, actually. Of course, many children, health is not your, ultimately our goal is, we want children to be healthy, but it's not just about healthy children. We want children who go on to have all the valuable choices, which for them in their lives, be it, so health is part of their, for their education as well, so they can fulfill their educational or their sporting goals or dancing goals or singing goals or whatever. So it's just, other than hearing about the asthma, there's plenty of asthma, and there's plenty of skin rashes and things like that. But it's also it's great to hear about what the things that children want to do in their lives.
So wonderful to hear you taking that holistic approach, and I'm sure some of those discussions were really quite fascinating. When you, I guess, are back here in Melbourne, and I think you're in Kensington in a community health setting, do you ever compare, do you think, about the patients, the children, and how resilient they are in Canberra compared to here in Melbourne?
Well, I think children, one thing is that, of course, in this situation in the schools, we're seeing children without their parents. So, of course, normally a child will come with their parent. And with regard to that, I think, and the other thing is sometimes smaller children are speaking in a language, well, I'm speaking in English, which might not be a small child's best language at all. Having said that, I think they're pretty good. I think they're pretty good at saying what they want quite often with a little bit of patience. And also they're pretty, I loved hearing about their bunny rabbits or whatever. And also when it comes to things like dentistry, I mean, look, I mean, when I was a 5-year-old child, I ran screaming up and down the corridor from the dentist, who was my dad, by the way. But these children in Kenya, of course, there's a few tears and a few, you know, unhappy moments. But even without their parent being around, because they weren't around, they were often they often willingly accepted, you know, a bit of painful treatment, because and that's a pretty tough ask of any child. They did it.
Yes, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And look, I've spotted, I know Grace is in the audience here tonight as well. Grace, I'm just going to very, very briefly just throw to you. I'm doing a bit of a Hamish on Q&A. I wish I could walk out into the audience and sit with you, but you've experienced many times going back to Kibera. Just tell us just some of your reflections of your time and what you've done as a doctor there.
So I think it's been always good to go back. I feel like they've become another family to me. And it's such a tradition to go back as well and to appreciate what we have here. What we've been doing in the clinics, I think I find the biggest impact really is when it comes to, you know, toothbrushing, or even just like their awareness to healthcare facilities and accessibility to healthcare. It's been really good because over the years when we first started, there were heaps of people who were quite unwell. And I think the local doctor we tend to partner with was saying that he would tend to see children who would be really sick for days. And by the time they come to him, like he would find that it's quite serious, whatever illness they had. But throughout the years, he's noticed that that's been lesser and lesser. Just purely the fact that they are aware of, you know, what being ill means and what to do about it. The other thing as well is, I guess, the number of tooth decays or is getting lesser, I think, proportionately. It's really hard sometimes because Kibera is quite a fluid population because people come and go. We do tend to end up seeing a lot more new patients than we have previously. But I really do enjoy going back. It's just so great to spend time with the Spur team and then just meeting the Spur children and watching them change over the years. It's always, you know, really nice to be part of.
It certainly is. And thank you for sharing that. On my screen, directly above you, is Nico. And when you mentioned about the dental hygiene first up, I could not help but remember the experience of seeing Nico singing songs about dental hygiene in some of the schools. How are you, Nico? You'll have to unmute yourself.
I'm fine. I'm fine. How is everyone?
We're good. We're good. Can you just very, very briefly just relay some of your experiences about the brushing your teeth and using your toothpaste and so forth?
Yeah, like most of the children, sometimes they don't even own a toothbrush with them. Giving them a toothbrush and at least a toothpaste is really going a long way. Like when we first started, just our children, the ones that we support in school, we realized that most of them were not even brushing. And as Grace was saying, there was so much extractions being done at the beginning of the clinics. But currently, at least that has changed because every now and then, like in every school term, we gather them together, sensitize them on how to brush their teeth, and at least give them a toothbrush and a toothpaste every school term. That is 3 times in a year. And that extends now to all the schools that we partner with closely. We do that once we get the products from the Colgate company, then we are able to do that. And that has been successful.
And if we had more time, I'd get you to sing perhaps one of those teeth brushing songs, but perhaps that's for another occasion, Nico.
Okay, right. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. I'll give you a little bit more warning next time. Look, we're going to divert now across to Alex. an extraordinary talented teacher specialising in mathematical teaching strategies and collaborative learning projects, even dare I say around the world. But Alex, as it was mentioned earlier, she attended the 2019 Spur report back at Froze Drop there in Mitcham. And 1 year later, has travelled with the team in January to Canberra and now is with us tonight as one of the panellists. So what a great story. And there was two major contributions that Alex made. But the first one, Alex, was with regard to your math strategies, maths games and activities. Can you tell us about that and the response of the children?
Yeah, I mean, I might just mention a little bit about the area of education that I've been working in, just for some context. So over the last few years, I've been focused intensely on maths learning, but particularly around perception of maths, so how it's seen by learners and people generally. So, you know, if you ask a person what their relationship with maths is, you'll likely get one of two responses. They either loved it or they really didn't. And too many people identify themselves as not good at maths or not a maths person. So this is a global challenge and something that a lot of people and educators around the world are working to change. And there's a heap of brain science and learning research available now that proves that anyone can learn maths and take it to high levels given the opportunity to engage with it more creatively and more playfully. So that's the work I've been focused on here in Melbourne. And in talking about the Kenyan context, in particular the community in Canberra, it was decided late last year that perhaps what I could do is bring some of these ideas around playful, joyful maths to Canberra. And so basically what happened was I packed a suitcase full of maths resources and took them to Canberra. And I just had a couple of images here to show, because this is one of the schools that we visited in Canberra called Brainstorm. Each of the schools looked a bit different, but just taking a look at these images just gives you a bit of a sense of the stark difference in terms of resources. I mean, this is one of the classrooms, so it's really just chalkboards, chalk, paper and pencil in terms of learning tools. And I mean, just look at those sleeping first graders, super cute, but you know, really the facilities are super basic compared to what we enjoy here in Australia. And so just being able to take a whole lot of resources over and bring some colour to the maths conversation and some games. There's some games here, pattern blocks, counters, cards. And so what we did was we ran a joyful math session at the Spur camp with the kids, and all the children engaged in 6 different activities. It ran over a good couple of hours, so they had a good 20-25 minutes at each activity. The Spur workers were involved in running those, so it was a really nice, joyful, collaborative, lots of interactions happening in that space. And it also ended up being a really great opportunity to gain some insights into the maths thinking of students. So as a team, we're actually able to notice what kids sort of showed some strong problem solving skills, and we're also able to pick up on kids who might benefit from some ongoing support for developing their number sense. So it was a really productive morning in terms of a joyful experience that the kids were able to engage in together, but also in a sort of sense of some data collection on what might be some of the learning needs within this group with respect to mathematics. So so that was, it was a really wonderful morning, and lots of great things happening. The kids seemed to enjoy it. It was the sort of thing where you saw kids going back to the table to play with blocks during the break, just which is normal with these kinds of activities here in Australia as well. It's one of those things where when you give those playful experiences, the school bell might go, but the kids don't hear it because they're actually in the moment with the activities and they're enjoying it. So yeah, it went well, and it was good fun doing it. So
that's marvelous, and you can see you can really that picture conveys there's some really decent learning going on that activity. It's just great to see. Alex, going forward, I'm aware that you're not just leaving Kibera and back here in Australia, but you're maintaining a level of contact with them. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's going to look?
Well, while I was in Kibera, it was really wonderful to hear firsthand from the workers, the Spur team and the children themselves about the impact of the video conferencing program, which they were attending, run by you and Carolyn, for developing their social emotional skills. I believe that was happening every few weeks or monthly, but it was really clear to the children themselves and the Spur workers the impact that had had on them. And particularly I think around the older kids who were getting ready to go off to high school, they reflected pretty actively themselves that those sessions had helped them prepare themselves for going off to high school, which is boarding school in Kenya. So, I mean, that seems to me a pretty good way of keeping a conversation going, is perhaps activating that video conferencing in a way that maybe we could continue some mathematical conversations alongside the social emotional development that you two are running. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit more about that program, because that seems to be
yeah, sure. And just throwing, then I'm going to just go to Carolyn, my wife, because she's played a major part in this as well. She's giving us a bit of a wave. Carolyn, just to follow on from what Alex is saying with regard to the component of emotional and feeling development that we were running, can you just tell us a little bit about maybe one special experience that you had during one of those sessions?
Hi, everyone. Well, just a little bit of context for those who weren't aware that when Ian and I went over to Kibera, it was 2018. And while we were there, we did start, we did a few sessions with a small number of children around developing their emotional awareness, just to start the conversation around what feelings are and what they are, what they look like. And then we thought, well, the challenge is, how do we continue this learning, and how can that week that we spent doing that make a difference? So yes, so last year Ian and I did round about each month a 45-minute to an hour session with a group of children at the Spur Centre, and so we'd have approximately a dozen children each time, and they were, as Alex said, probably those who are year 7, 8 kids. And so they would come to the Spur Centre, and I believe Sue would cook up a meal for them, and they'd all sit in the back room, and we'd run some games and have some fun, and then do some just some work around our feelings, our emotions, and how to express them. What do they look like? What do we do with them? And that was a really big one. What do we do once we know what our feelings are? What do we do then? And so we found that the kids were really quite open to learn about it, and it was really a thrill to watch some of them who were very shy. When we were asked them to come up to the screen to talk to us, a lot of them would be quite hesitant and not particularly confident in doing that. And, they would look down at the floor instead of looking up at the screen at us. They'd be, quite self-conscious, it would seem. But over the time, we did certainly notice an improvement as far as their confidence levels building, and able to have more than a one-word answer. When we're asking a question about how they were, how they were feeling when something happened, rather than just a one-word answer, we get more, more information. So I think their confidence built. And there was one particular girl I remember meeting when we were over there. I'll just use another name. We'll call her Mia. And while we were there, I had a little bit to do with her, and she was quite shy, just wanted to stay in the background, was never the one to say anything. Other people would say things for her. But in the group during those months of or monthly sessions, when we're asking Mia to come, you know, to the front of the group and talk about something, she did, you know, really out of her comfort zone. And I really was so impressed, because I know that was just really hard for her. She would much prefer just to stand at the back and be invisible. But she did, she really came out, and it was really exciting to see how much she grew. So that's, I guess, one example that sticks in my mind.
Well, Carolyn, thank you for sharing that. And going forward, between Carolyn and myself and Alex, we're going to partner together on these video conferencing sessions where we anticipate will go monthly once we get to the other side of the COVID-19. And so we'll have an emotional development part in it, but also a problem-solving come mass activity part. So I'm really looking forward to how that's going to unfold. Alex, before we leave you, another special contribution that you made was that you're responsible for the training day for the mentors. Can you just give us a brief overview and some responses to that day?
Sure. Yeah, so the mentor training day was really an important event for me. I was able to meet over, I think, more than 40 local volunteer mentors, so professionals living in Nairobi who were each assigned to mentor a sponsored child. And it was great to learn the ins and outs of that program, and just to see how valuable and essential it is for supporting the children emotionally and socially and emotionally. And so the mentor training day in January was an opportunity to bring all of the mentors together so that they could learn from each other's experience and each other's ideas and skills. Some, you know, some of the mentors were a lot more experienced than others. Some were fairly new to the program. So it was really a day full of rich conversations, largely around the theme of connecting with mentees, because that can be, breaking the ice can be a challenge that needs to happen before any mentoring can even really occur. So yeah, it was a really great day, productive. We also spent some time exploring mindsets and some strategies for modelling and encouraging the positive mindset, or what's called a growth mindset in the education space. Yeah, no, it was a really, really great day, and it was, you know, a privilege to help facilitate that session and allow the group to learn from each other, just help guide the group to learn from each other. So as an outsider, I don't have a lot of local knowledge, but my role was really just activating that collaborative learning. So yeah, no, it was wonderful.
It's great to hear you reflecting about your experiences in those areas. And I know that there were probably so many other areas that you were able to take great value from and contribute towards. So thank you for that. I'm going to move now to, I'm going to move now to Rosalie. Rosalie, it's been a 10-year journey.
Yes.
Can you give us a bit of a context? It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been, I can't believe it's been 10 years. 10 years ago, I just finished uni. I went over to Kenya. Actually, I did a trip around Africa with some friends, and basically I met Patoh and Sue then. I fell in love with Kibera. I fell in love with the people there. I'm definitely a bit horrified by the circumstances they lived in, but I wanted to do something. I just didn't know what. So when I came back to Melbourne, I still kept in contact with Patoh, and basically we started fundraising. It was a very small amount at first, only $1,000. I was very young, like 21 then, and I started a charity about a year after that. And by God's grace and a lot of people in this Zoom meeting, all my friends, our family, church, community really got together, and we were able to continue the vision that we have for Spur, which actually came from Patoh, but I sort of with with a lot of grit and a bit of God's grace, everything just came together. And 10 years later, we're still here, and we support 100 families, 100 children, 6 programs, 6 local workers, and we're hoping to continue to do more. But obviously, with COVID, it's a bit different, but we're still going and we're still able to meet, and it's quite funny. We're like making lemonade out of lemons. Is that the the phrase. At first I really wanted to have an actual event where, you know, Alex and David and us could have like an actual event to tell you what happened in January, but this is nearly even better because everybody's at different places. We've got Jing who's in from Perth, people from Kenya on this group, and we're able to really share the joys and the things that we've learnt from the people living in Canberra, and we're still all connected even though we live so far apart.
That's great.
Yeah.
What a great story, and you must feel very blessed, very proud that with the three, also all of the Spur team and where we are at this point in time. So, simply, what drives you with all this?
I think at the end of the day, it's when I'm in Canberra, seeing all the children, the families' faces. I think, yeah, the last week I've actually got a few videos from a few of the high school graduates. It was pretty cool seeing their transition from when they were little children, really quite short and little and really shy, like what Carolyn said before. I remember Kathleen, she was so shy, she wouldn't even look into my eyes, and she wouldn't want to take a photo for a sponsor because she just never stood still or just never had a picture taken. But then 6-7 years later, she's able to graduate from high school. She knows how to pose. She knows how to make her little videos to a sponsor. And now she wants to study nursing. It's so amazing that a child that we saw about 6-7 years ago who wouldn't even look into my face is now considering getting a job, giving back to a community, and still living in Canberra, and being quite inspired to keep going, which is I think is so amazing. And there's so many of those stories, like Daniel, who was a part of your I think your group as well. He's now a class president, got a scholarship from Equity Bank, and when I took him out for our trip after one of our health clinics, I took him along to a cafe in Java, and he basically looked at me and said, "Oh, I think I've made it because I get to have a milkshake to myself, and I get to sit in a restaurant with you." And that smile just keeps me going. And then it was pretty funny because after that we all the Mzungus, so all the white people, all the foreigner people, we went to the supermarket to buy our groceries. Well, I went to buy chips because I really like chips, and you can't get those chips in Canberra. And I told the kids that they could pick one thing, so because everybody else was buying stuff, and the kids was amazing. They picked pasta to buy from the supermarket, not because they particularly wanted it, but because they knew pasta would be the best thing to share with their family. So I thought that was quite amazing that a kid who was not even like 16, I think, would choose the one treat is for his whole family. And so after that I told him, "Oh, you can choose something else then." And of course he chose a packet of chips, but I think maybe he was just copying me. But it's amazing that the kids can show so much community spirit, and they live in poverty, but they have so much to offer the world, and it would be such a shame for kids to miss out on that opportunity. So that's why we're here, to try and get more kids to finish school and to get out there and give it back to the community, which is the whole vision of what we do. We don't just want to see kids finish high school and just get education. We want them to give back to their community and be a value member of society. So yeah, that's what drives me.
And Rosa, I'm diverting a tiny bit from our script here, but I know that won't bother you. But you've mentioned this a little bit about the sense of connection and community that the kids, families in Canberra have. Even the Spur Centre now, you know, they gravitated towards it for all different types of reasons, and the people that are there. Tell us a little bit about this, what you witnessed with the kids connecting and the relationships that are being developed.
Oh, well, those relationships will never ever be severed. I think even in COVID-19, where they're not really supposed to meet, they ring each other all the time. They want to go to the centre to pick up books or to see Sue or the team. The sense of community is just so great. That's so much so that whenever anything great happens, they tell them. Whenever anything bad happens, that we also know. But we also know their families so well that we're able to pick up on things as well. So if a kid is struggling or if a parent is struggling, we're able to really foster that community. But also that's why all our programs are not just geared towards the child, but also to the family. So we have health insurance programs, we have parent meetings, and we also have lots of home visits where we go and actually visit where they live, which for me, I suppose sometimes it's very confronting. And when I bring new people into the slums for the first time, that I think for Carolyn, I remember bringing her into Kibera for the first time, and just to see how much that impacted her was that's a driver for me to continue to keep going to Kibera as well, to bring new people to see how people live. And even though they don't have running water, electricity, they don't have a toilet, but they're still living, they're still trying their best, and they're still giving hope to everybody else.
Thanks, Rosalie, for that. Marvellous. We're going to change tack just a tiny bit now. I've noticed on my screen there are 4 questions that have come in from the audience, but as others may be thinking or formulating or crystallising some questions that they might like to contribute, I want to encourage you to do that. But for each of the panellists, just a very, very brief one for you. Is there something from your recent experience in Kibera that has stayed with you that you would really like our Melbourne audience to know, something that's special to you? So, Patoh, can I throw over to you?
A bit of it is what Rosie has just spoken about, which is the special bond that we get to form with the children at first and then moves to the family. And all of a sudden, it looks like we have 106 families merged together and we are just one huge family.
That's great. That's great. One big family. David, is there something for you?
So this year I was, other than the medical clinics, I was fortunate to join in with the summer camp program, which Spur Africa runs for the sponsored children in January, and that was really, I mean, that's where the yes, Alex was also doing the maths program for the day, and I think it was really fantastic to see how some children are really have been quite nurtured and also can nurture the other younger children as well, and how they can like and you know, to the extent where you know, some smaller children say, yes, I want to be like that one, the larger kid. I think that's a really great thing to see, and
that's great, giving them role models to look up to. And Alex, was there something special for you?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. So the home visits on that first day and just seeing how truly poor the people of Kibera are, but also just how beautiful, kind and hopeful they are about their future, knowing that they have opportunities to break themselves out of poverty, knowing that Spur Africa exists and is doing that work. And I just have I always have this really beautiful memory of walking through Kibera, the slum, and being really overwhelmed. I mean, it kind of looked like I expected, but the smells and the atmosphere and things just were quite, just it seemed like a lot to have to live like that. And so yeah, I guess what I just want to communicate is just how poor the people are there, but also just how determined they are given the opportunity. And so this is why I'm, I guess, motivated and keen to be a part of this work, because it's important, and we all deserve opportunities to live a fulfilling life and all of that sort of thing. So that's like, and I just remember the little children, you know, playing in the slum and waving and saying, hello, how are you? And, you know, and I said, I'm good, how are you? But they don't actually know what I'm saying back to them. It's just something that they have, just these really beautiful interactions with these joyful children that are playing in absolute, you know, squalor. And so, yeah, it was just this kind of real mixture of emotions and different things going on that day. And look, the other thing is I'll just remember how much fun it was to party in Canberra. Like the music and the dancing was just something else. And, you know, I came back with an awesome Kenyan playlist, which I play every now and then and try and dance, you know. And yeah, you know, so it's just so much fun, just a really great community. And I just felt at home and like part of the family. And so it's really just nice to be here now, like reunited with my family. So
Right.
yeah, so that would be a couple of things that I remember fondly.
Great fond memories. And I remember asking that question myself to children, Alex, how are you? And I'd always get fine, and how are you? Yes. Rosalie, you've had it for 10 years, you've been on this journey. Is there something that stands out? Maybe this is a tough question.
Oh, that all of them, everything really stands out. But I would agree that the dancing and the partying is a highlight. And I think for the Saturday night where we, instead of us doing all the activities, they did an open night mic night. And the children just took over. It was amazing. And all the adults sit down. Oh, well, we didn't sit down for that long, but we were entertained for a whole night. So I think that's pretty amazing to see kids who were so shy once upon a time to try to take the mic off each other and have a dance off is so amazing. So I look forward to that every year.
That's great. And that resonates with our video conferencing sessions. We always start off with an icebreaker, and you only just have to put that music on, and then Patoh starts moving, Nico starts moving, you see Sue jump across the screen, and the kids are all enjoying themselves. It's just wonderful to see. So it's great. Now look, we've got, I can see on my screen, 5 questions that have come in from our wonderful audience, even though I can't see them all. We've got one who's in the background, who's our tech expert there. He's going to organise these and he's going to read them out, and we'll see which panellists we're going to direct them to, or it may just work out that someone jumps in. So, one, way you go.
Thanks, Ian. As the tech expert, I'm having some technical issues, but anyway, we do have one question, Ian. Out of the 5 posts you're seeing, one was the question. So it's from Ash. It is, what does the COVID-19 restrictions mean for schooling for the Spur kids? So maybe one of the Kenya team want to respond to that one?
Patoh?
Yeah, so what we have had to do is we've divided the children into 2. The first group is the group that are doing their final exams to either finish high school or primary school and move into high school, and start a tutoring process for them. We are hiring some people to actually come and tutor with them remotely, where they get the work done and then they are coached one-on-one so that they prepare for the exams. And then the second group is all the rest that are not candidates for exams, where we've gotten tutors and we are getting materials to them, and they do and get them back to us. Actually, Alex has just sent us other new material just today that we are able to print and send to strategic places where the kids can take and study and return for us to be able to mark them and assist them where possible.
Excellent. Guan, I'm going to go back to you for the next one.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? Please do write them in the chat window.
So at this stage, you're not seeing the text come up on your screen?
The other posts you're seeing weren't questions. Then that number, there's just a few other comments about the cool Kenya jackets that people are wearing. But they weren't a question.
Jean's wearing hers too.
I've got another question. I'll just say it now. For the Kenya team, so Patoh, Sue, and Nico, after this COVID thing is all done, what would be like the main, what are you most excited about tackling after this is over? Like what's on your mind and what are you itching to do once COVID-19 is finished?
Sue?
Oh,
Sue, go ahead.
Good question, G. I think for me, for the last few weeks that we have just been going into the children's families and just visiting them, and there's all this request of, oh, we will come to the center, and yeah, of course, a few children sneaking to the center even when we discourage them not to. I think now I have more energy to play more with the children, and even for us to just organize an activity and celebrate that we have gotten through this, and we were able to support them when they needed, and we were able to keep the communication going even if it was hard. Yeah, so I would definitely be requesting Nico to organize probably a dance-off at the center to just celebrate like we are all well.
Excellent. Okay. Now, from what I understand, Guan, you're saying that they're just actual comments about people and what they look like. They're not actual questions. You sure? Now, I'm going to give the audience, this is because you've been a wonderful audience, is there anyone at all who just may have a question? I think we've got time for one more. Is there anybody at all?
We do have one question that just came through.
Oh, great.
It's probably for Rosalie. Are we still looking for sponsors?
We had 15 new kids to be sponsored, and we praise God, last week we got the 15 new sponsors, so that's been great. But now we are renewing all the other ones, so the 85 left. So we're praying and hoping that everyone will still continue to sponsor their child, but I don't know what will happen. So therefore, we might be just starting a waiting list, or having people tell me their interest if they want to sponsor a child. But if they don't want to sponsor a child, there's always, you can sponsor one of our workers. So Patoh, Sue, Nico are here on the call. You can always sponsor one of them to for their work to continue. But there's also lots of other ways to be involved, which is I think now is time to cue this COVID-19 initiative that we have just started, which is called the Spur Emergency Food Fund, which we as Patoh said, lots of our parents aren't working because of COVID-19. Therefore, the children do go hungry because the parents eat first and the children normally, they don't have the priority to eat. So we found that if they aren't eating, we might as well get together and bulk buy some food, and we want to be able to feed 100 families for the next 2 months. So we've managed to feed about 100 families for the last month. If you've checked out our social media or followed Patoh or Sue, you'll see that they've been working really hard to get that food bank going and sending it to families as well, because we don't want them to come and collect it. We have to take it to them individually. So now we're hoping that we can feed another 100 families in the next 2 months, which we've got a dedicated site for. So drum roll, you'll see it tonight. Guang, do you want to show us the Big Cartel site? It's called spurafrica.bigcartel.com, as you can see. And you have an option of 3 products, which is feed one family for 2 weeks, feed a family for a month, and feed a family for 2 months. So we're only doing it for the next 2 months. And it's only because of COVID-19 that we're doing this. We would not normally do this at all, because we encourage our families and parents to work and to provide for their family. But because of COVID-19, we are doing this. So jump on that site later on. It's all tax deductible as well. And we understand that, yeah, it can be a bit difficult to have extra funds at this time, but we really pray and hope that you'll continue to support us and think of somebody else at this time that they definitely have it worse off than us. I can self-isolate in my mum's house, actually, with 3 bedrooms and a living room for 2 of us, while in Kenya and Kibera, there's 10 people living in the size of my kitchen. So they're the ones who we're thinking of, and we're hoping that we'll be able to raise this money so that we can go to the family. So thanks, Guang, for your little screen share, and the site is just on everybody's chat now.
Excellent, Rosalie. Thank you very, very much for sharing that. What an innovative outcome during these challenging times. Can I get everybody that's in our audience tonight to go to their reaction button to thank our panelists by giving them a big round of applause? Can you do that for me? Looking good. Very nice indeed. Yep, we can do the visual one as well. I want to thank very, very much to the audience that's with us tonight, just for your continued support and interest. That is greatly appreciated as well. So you guys can give yourselves a big thumbs up, I reckon, if you can. You can find that one there too. And included in that, of course, is the tech crew, which was one. Did a marvellous job tonight, mate. And also for scripting behind the scenes, Rachel, who's just there as well. And we'll give her a big round of applause or a thumbs up as well for those guys. We do appreciate it. Now we come to a special time in our evening where we do need to announce the Zoom Costume Award. And I do ask this person please to stay behind. I know the judges, they've actually fed it to me in my ear. They've been thinking the whole evening, who could it be, who could it be? But on this occasion, actually, it goes to Shirlane. Bright, sparkly. So Shirlane, can we give her a round of applause for her wonderful Zoom outfit this evening? It captured the judge's imagination by that bright spark on the screen. We'll give you a nice round of applause for that too. So already mentioned tonight is just what Rosalie was saying about in terms of going forward and how can we continue to support Spur Africa. Well, really, Rosalie's already just unpacked that and we've seen the image on the screen, but it's about donating to that Spur Emergency Food Fund. What an innovative and great idea to spread that food to so many folk through Kibera. The options are there too, of course, whether you just want to feed, for 1 week or 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, depending on what you're able to do. The next one is perhaps you might have a spare hour going forward, or 2 hours, or whatever it can be, to just donate some of your voluntary time. And if you'd like to do that, I'm going to encourage you to make connections and contact with Rosalie, and I'll tell you how you'll do that in just a moment, okay? Because there's lots of things, and I know Rosalie can have several activities, the way that you can support the work and the administration that's going on here in Melbourne. So look out for a forthcoming email post this event. There will be a link to a recording of this session. There will be the food bank details. There will be also, get this one, a bunch of mass resources for you, any teacher that's here, and that's courtesy of Alex. And they may be resources you want to pass on to somebody that possibly could use them. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy them. So in terms of wrapping up our evening tonight, and we've just been on the hour now, you've been a terrific audience, a terrific panelists. So just closing quick remarks. I think I speak on behalf of all that's here tonight. Spur Africa, what a truly remarkable story that started over 10 years ago and continues to engage, empower, and educate the lives of children and families in Kibera. To Patoh and Sue, and I know Nico's with us tonight, and the rest of the Spur Africa team, despite the 11,494 kilometres that separates us, you continue to inspire, engage, empower, and educate the Melbourne supporter base here. and will continue to do so as the partnership forges into the future. You are definitely a blessing to us. Until the next Spur Africa event, I bid you all farewell and wish you safety as you travel to the other rooms in your house. Blessings to you all. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good evening.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. It was a good
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, and Shalane, you've won a leather notebook that says on it. Yeah, and because I know you and I know where your house is, I will do a special delivery, but it'll be contactless, or maybe you'll see me through the window.
All good, thank you.
Thanks, Rosalie. Congratulations, Shirley.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks,
Good
Ian, for
evening,
hosting.
everybody.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian, for
Thanks,
hosting.
Ian.
You're a
Thank
great
you.
hoster.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Stay safe,
Well
everyone.
done, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.